When Daniel did a live stream yesterday about how much coverage all the candidates are getting, Bernie Sanders, of course, he's got name recognition, but he's not getting as much coverage as possible. And even on earlier shows, we talked about how progressive candidates like Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard are still going to get negative articles. This is a misleading article from, especially a title from The Hill. So I'm just going to read it to you guys, and it's completely short, but you'll understand just how fucked up this piece is, because assuming that only people who see the title read it and then assume that, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders is doing something wrong. Sanders Institute shutting down amid criticism.
Now I want to say super quick before we get into that, what he just read is what 80% of the people will get from this article. Not
just the title.
Just the title. And this is from The Hill, a leading news outlet here in the United States.
They probably have a lot of Harvard graduates working for them.
Yes, this is the same Hill that also attacked Bernie Sanders in 2016. So, the Sanders Institute, a think tank founded by the wife and son of Senator Bernie Sanders, is shutting down, the Associated Press reported Thursday. The Vermont Institute stopped accepting donations and will suspend all operations by the end of May, so there could not even be an appearance of impropriety, Jane Sanders told the Associated Press. Critics have said the think tank blurs lines between family, fundraising, and campaigns. The Vermont senator criticized Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign for her family's nonprofit and is reportedly concerned he will be called hypocritical over the institute. The 2020 Democratic candidate has no role in the institute, which was created after his failed 2016 push. I like how they put that in there. Mind you, they already say, well, what's the criticism, okay? Speaking to the Associated Press, Jane Sanders kept the door open for the institute to begin taking donations once Bernie Sanders is no longer running for president. I think that was the most important thing to do, to not accept donations, because nobody should think that they're giving money to an organization that gains them access or favor to anybody else and anybody running for office, she said in an interview this week. So remember, the title said this: Sanders Institute shutting down amid criticism. What's the criticism? Here's what I think of this title. And here's what I think of corporate media constantly lying. Here's what I think about their bullshit. And here's what I think about them attacking Bernie Sanders again. It's crap. All the time we're going to be dealing with this. We're going to see more stories like this. But what's the evidence behind it? It's the same thing corporate media did in attacking Tulsi Gabbard for her being an honorary member to a Koch brother think tank about non-interventionism. Tulsi Gabbard isn't getting money from the Koch brothers. Bernie Sanders and the Sanders Institute, what's the criticism? Not to mention, he has no role in the institute. His wife and son founded that institute, and now they are shutting it down so that they don't get called out on it, on any kind of weird corruption or connections. It's the right thing to do. Yet corporate media is going to spin it the other way. And that's the kind of stories that we're going to see about Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard and any other progressive running in the race, or any other progressives running in any other elected races as well for the 2020 election cycle. This is bullshit from corporate media, and you can expect more lies and more smear campaigns, but and you could tell they're trying to pull everything they can just to attack Bernie Sanders. And I'm right now getting sick and tired of it. Guys, commentary.
So I gotta say, I think that was fantastic. I don't really have a whole lot that could possibly top that. But what I will say is that, you know, we've seen what happened in 2016 when things like this happen. What goes on is that an article like that goes out, a title goes out, a bunch of generally older people that still trust media implicitly get it stuck in their heads, and so then when you're talking to them about Bernie Sanders 3 months from now, 6 months from now, they have this thing in their head that he had a controversy, that he had to shut down something over. Then when you ask them about it, they really don't know where that came from or what the details were, and you can't get out. So this is how you do propaganda. I mean, this is propaganda 101. Do a headline that sounds terrible with an article that has no substance, that only 20% of people are going to read in general, to an audience that you know already dislikes Bernie Sanders. Now they have this earworm, or this eyeworm perhaps, stuck in them because some Yale person that bought their way through Yale wrote an article that makes someone else's point. This isn't news. This is not news. This is propaganda. You aren't the reader. You are the product. Yeah. That's why we're doing this. That's why Kit rightly tossed and threw away that story, because that's what it is. It's kindling. It is most useful to start fires if it's printed out. It's not worth the electrons to be sent to your computer, but because there are these esteemed long-term Ivy League newspaper institutions, oh, well, A bunch of older people really trusted them from their youth because they believe everything that's in print. And they take advantage of that to screw people. And I've had a lot of conversations with people that are older about this stuff with media, and, you know, I feel bad for them because they've just been propagandized for so long in their life that they're so conditioned. It's so habitual that they sit down and read The Hill, even though it's a shell of its former self. The truth is that media is changing. What matters, what is true is changing. They've set themselves up for the last 100 years, or many of those years they were good, but they've made themselves, they put themselves into a bind where they get money from, their subscription numbers dropping, they got to get more and more salacious, and that means they got to get funding from more and more, how shall I say, terrible places. Yeah. So before, I'm sure that The Hill maybe 20, 30 years ago would scoff at a Democratic institute having the audacity of thinking that they can just bribe them to put a story in that benefits them. Not now.
Yeah.
This is how they make their money. Remember, corporate media makes $4 billion an election cycle on ads. The news loves corruption. They love money in politics. They would rather, and there's a good video Jimmy Dore did on this, they would rather Trump win again than someone like Sanders, because the media is fantastically happy with someone like Trump because the ratings that were going so terribly and no one cared about them are suddenly relevant again.
Right.
I'm going to quote CBS really quickly for my last point.
Yeah.
It's.
I was just thinking.
Yeah,
that.
you can go for it.
Go ahead.
I forget what the exact quote is, but they basically said
the quote is this. The quote was this about Trump. The president of CBS said this: "What Trump is saying is bad for America, but is good for CBS." Remember, corporate media gave his podium a lot of press time, and shout out to everyone for my "fuck it, we'll do it live" moment. You know, but hey, that's what happens with corporate media. Never forget what they did in 2016. Paul, I'm going to get your commentary on this.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing I did in the last story and sort of go with an ancillary point. Mm-hmm. I was talking with an older guy recently, not that long ago, and he was telling me, he's like, I only read the good news, and I only read the headlines. And I was like, what's the good news? He's like, the New York Post. I'm like, so you scroll through the New York Post and only read the headlines, and that's to you the good news.
Okay, I think that since I want to end this, I do want to read a fantastic quote that we just get in from Carbo Mouth. This is the article that The Hill is now actively, as we're speaking, writing on Kit Cabello himself. And the headline goes as followed. Self-professed environmentalist Kit Cabello of HLM wastes paper products on air in a fit of rage. Has he sold out to Big Pulp? There you have it.
You know what? Here's what I say to corporate media. Yeah, I did it. Come and get me. No, but here's the thing. Guys, be prepared to see more bullshit stories and attacks on Bernie Sanders. Never forget that the Washington Post in one day sent out 16 negative articles about Bernie Sanders. MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, they all kept on doing nothing but negative stories about Bernie Sanders, calling him misogynist and a sexist, and he's too old and he's not relevant. But as soon as Bernie Sanders stepped in the race for the 2020 election cycle, in one day, he raised $6 million. Well, technically, it ran up to $10 million. So already, Bernie Sanders is secure to be on a debate stage. Already, Bernie Sanders has a name recognition and momentum. And corporate media is trying everything in their power to derail his campaign. But also look what they're doing to Tulsi Gabbard. Nothing but negative stories on her. But mind you, they're not talking about Tulsi Gabbard because she's very successful. Already, zero thing. It's just like what Daniel said in his earlier live stream yesterday. The media will not cover candidates that are making an impact if they're successful. Now, they can't ignore Bernie Sanders because he has that name recognition, but all the stories we'll see will be negative or they'll have misleading titles. But then look at people like Beto O'Rourke and Joe Biden. I already did 2 live streams about those 2 individuals, and already right off the bat, they're neoliberal centrists. They're corporate sellouts. So let's not believe the bullshit.
Hey guys, do you like the video? If so, be sure to give us a sub and hit the bell for notification. You know how YouTube is. And if you have the time, check us out on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, and check us out at hardlensmedia.com. Be sure to check out our Patreon if you really support what we do and want to support us at independent media.